All right, guys. What we're doing right now is pressing in the bushings for the rear lower control arm. Now, the rear upper control arm presses in just like the front uppers and the front lowers. Two bushings get pressed in each hole or each bore like that. In this case, with the lower control arm, you have to press these bushings in. Now, when you read the instructions for the rear control arms, there's not many. I called up the company AFE Control. I spoke to the research and development department, and their answer to me was, after you spend 500 some odd dollars on a kit, is that to be the word I'm looking for is be creative. Now, using a press to try to press these bushings in is a big pain in the ass, because every single time you try to put pressure on it, the bushing gets cockeyed and sideways and it pops out. You want to make sure that you don't put any lube on the outside, okay, of the bushing, because you don't want it to spin in the bore when it's installed under pressure. So you have to use some sort of chemical agent or lubricant agent that will dissolve, like silicone or WD-40 that the company recommended. But in their words, they said, get creative. So going on forums and going online and stuff like that, I made myself a bushing puller or a bushing installer. You can buy this type of tool online at summitracing.com for like 800 some odd dollars. What I did, I went to Home Depot. I got about a 13 or 15 inch long half-inch threaded rod with a 30, I believe a 30 pitch and a half-inch nut. You can use fender washers. I happen to have a bearing race install kit or installing tool, which is a little bit thicker, as you can see, so it makes the installation a lot easier. The company also said use a lot of heat, but don't use too much heat to melt the bushing. So it's a fine line, because polyurethane compared to rubber is a lot harder. So what we're going to do is we're going to heat up this bushing. All right, careful you don't burn yourself. But heat up the bushing a little bit at the entry point of whatever end you're going to put into the bore. So in this case, we're going to put in the shock bushing, okay? And we're going to heat up this side, because this side is going to enter into the bore first. So I'll just give it a minute or so. Don't go crazy. Once it gets hot, it just starts to melt. That's it. So make sure you kind of always rotate it, put it on something, either hold it with a pair of pliers, or in this case, I'm using my little makeshift tool here. Now, as you're heating it up, make sure you're rotating it so it gets all around the insulation and where it's going to go in, so it flexes and goes in. Now, when you install this, if it goes cockeyed, just be careful it doesn't go that far cockeyed. But if it shifts a little bit going in, that's okay. It's going to happen. If it shifts going in using a press, it's just going to pop right out. So this is the only way you're going to make this work. So we kind of got to be quick about this. Okay. All right, we got it nice and soft. So what we're going to do is, this is the insulation end. We're going to put this through. Don't be afraid to spray a little love on it. Put this through. Why does this jack this up? Oh, wrong bushing. I'm embarrassing myself. Oh, it's still warm. Okay, now here's the control arm. It's kind of sort of in there. It's still actually very warm. Spray some lubricant on it, and we're going to suck it right in. Now see how it gets cockeyed? It's okay. If it gets a little sideways like that, it's okay. If you have a screwdriver or a pry bar, you can kind of force it a little bit, but don't make sure. So if it gets a little cockeyed, just make, if you can, just keep some pressure on it and work the bushing in like that, as you can see. Okay, so now I made it straight using a little bit of a pry bar. Now again, nice and easy, you're going to suck it right in. See it go in? Walks itself right in. And after that, just send it home. Once the bushing goes in, probably about 1 inch or 2 inches. After that, you can get yourself a rubber mallet and knock the bushing right in. And there's the bushing. And now you're going to do that in all other points. The front and the rear. We're going to go over it again. Okay, now we're going to do the 2 other bushings. So if this was in the car, this would be the front of the car, this would be the back end of the car. Okay, now in the diagram, all the bushings are numbered and they tell you where to go. All right, in this case, this is the rear of the car. It's saying that I need a 3-3-3-1 bushing, which is going to be this bushing right here. Okay, now the diagram is pretty good because you can see how the bushing is kind of angled on both sides. In the diagram, it actually shows angles. On the front bushing, you have an angled end and you have a flat end. The flat end goes more towards the front of the car, which I'll show you when I install the bushing. So in this case, we're going to install the rear bushing. So again, we're going to heat it up. Again, don't go that crazy, but heat it up just enough to make it flexible. Okay, nice and soft. Spray a little love on there. Line the bushing up. My tool is properly adjusted now. So we're going to go in from this side. I know I said don't get any lubrication on the outside, but as per AFE, I can spray either silicone or WD-40 and it'll dissipate when it gets installed. Okay, make sure the angled sections of the bushing are kind of somewhat lined up in the bore, if you understand what I mean. Now right here, see how it got too cockeyed? Okay, it's still soft right now, but see how it got too cockeyed? You don't want that. If it does that, you gotta stop. If you don't stop, you're gonna tear the bushing out. Polyurethane is very strong, but if you do something like that, you're gonna have a very, very bad day. So, it's still somewhat warm. You can see it's smoking still. Maybe I did a little bit too fast with the install. Okay, looks pretty lined up. Install it again. So now if it gets sideways, you can kind of push it. I don't know if you noticed that, but I kind of pushed it in so it's still aiming towards inside the bore. See how it's going in? You can see actually how it's going in live right now. And there it is. I think this tool cost me $12 at Home Depot. Actually, I bought it at Lowe's. And Summit Racing, which is a great company, but they want $800 for the kit. bushing's installed. Now we're going to do the other end. Now this end, okay, I already heated up the bushing already. I'm lining it up in the bore. Now, make sure you don't get the bushings mixed up, because I almost did. This is the front of the car. The bushing, you have to make sure the flat side of the bushing faces towards the front of the car. Just make sure you do that. Don't install it backwards. Okay? Make sure you line up the bushing with the bore as best you can. We already gave it a little lube on there. Don't start off too fast. Start off nice and easy. See how it's compressing? Pretty soon you're going to start seeing this lip go right in. Right in. And that's it. Take the tool apart, get a rubber mallet, and whack the rest of it in. And now we're going to go over, after this, we're going to go over the install into the car. Alright, so now the bushings are in. I put the sleeves in, okay. This, you have two sleeves that go in this way for the front, towards the front of the car, and you have a regular sleeve that goes in towards the rear of the car. The sleeve for the shock mount is already in there. It's pressed in. You can see how it's pushed out a little bit this way because it's a very, very tight fit. Once you put the shock on there and tighten it, it's going to squeeze it all together. But now we're at the point when we got to install the lower control arm into the car. You see I have a C-clamp on here, and the C-clamp is actually squeezing the top, so it kind of looks like a V going this way on both sides. With this not compressed, it will not fit in here. It just won't fit in here at all. Okay, so what I'm going to do is line everything up and put this little bit, also known as just the tip. We're going to put it in just a little bit there so it squeezes in to this area right here. Once it's in there, I'm going to take a mallet and whack the whole control arm in. And as I'm whacking it in, it's going to slide the C-clamp back every single time I strike it. So what we're going to do is I'm going to line it up. It's right in there right now. Get my mallet, and it should send it right home. It's okay. It's working a little bit. It's going to take some finesse. It's a pain in the ass because you're trying to shove 5 pounds of shit in a 2-pound bag. And it's very, very difficult. But once you get it up, lined up nice, it's going to sink right in. See it going in? It's going in nice. That should come right off. After that, we send it right home. Now once the control arm is in, you gotta make sure you have to line up the bore with the adjustment slots where the bolt goes through the frame. Do it in the front and in the rear area. Torque them down to manufacturer specs, because remember, we marked the spots when we took it out. We marked the spots to give you your base alignment, so you can at least drive it someplace or trailer it, to your choice. But make sure you line these holes up nice. This front bolt here, you're going to have to remove some bolts on the gas tank cover a little bit, so you can snake the bolt through this crack here to get in there. Alright. So you have to move this. You can see how this flexes down. You flex this down to stick the head of the bolt through here and into the hole that way. Alright.